Heartbreak is the breakthrough to a new lifeline, one that opens the doors to a powerful self-discovery. In this episode, I'm joined by my longtime former client, life coach, and heartbreak expert, Harj Thiara. She's here to offer you 4 steps to navigate from heartbreak to an empowering journey to uncover the real you. You'll learn how to view heartbreak as an opportunity, why it's important to get curious about your pain, and why heartbreak is simply just extreme disappointment. Harj Thiara is a heartbreak coach who is here to change the dialogue of how the world traditionally deals with the ending of relationships. An ex-addict of quick help solutions, Harj found herself craving a journey of heart work and self-discovery. By turning her heart on, she eradicated notions that are often portrayed in bad Hollywood movies, such as finger pointing, revenge seeking, and throwing shade at our partners and experiences. Through one-on-one coaching and workshops around the city, Harj teaches people how to heal through the heartbreak process, shift into a place of accountability, and utilize the heart's superpowers to recreate the life they deserve through the grieving process. This episode is part of my special 10-episode client feature where I'm featuring incredible clients who inspire me. If you are interested in working with me, a fantastic place to start would be my website. Just head to rubyfremon.com/work with me. Today's episode is sponsored by the Mayfair Hotel and Eve American Bistro in downtown Los Angeles, home of my annual 3-day event, Amplified Soul Live. The 2019 event takes place February 22nd to the 24th. For tickets and info, head to www.rubyfremon.com/ASL. Now it is time to continue this 10-episode client feature with Harj Thiara. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with another incredible client who inspires me. And this client and I have been on a pretty lengthy journey together. It's been amazing because she's, as my client, has been able to witness my evolution, and I've been able to witness her evolution. So I'm really excited to have her on. Harj, welcome to today's Thought Leader.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor.
So, Harj, let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
There's this line from your bio that I fucking love, and it is that you believe that heartbreak is the breakthrough to a new lifeline.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Tell us about that.
And always yes. You know, it's interesting because a lot of times when we go through heartbreak, and speaking from my own experience, in the moment it feels like life is all crumbling to the very bottom and that shit is just over. That is the level of pain that can be felt when you go through that sort of experience. Mm-hmm. But what I have found through handling my heartbreaks in one way for so many years, and then moving through my heart's calling to actually deal with my final heartbreak in the most loving and most compassionate way, I understood that this journey of self-discovery through all of the pain that I was experiencing literally was like a brand new lifeline. I was experiencing life for the first time over again when I had moved into the place of self-discovery. And even things like from drinking water to eating food, it was like nothing had tasted better, nothing had felt better. And right then and there, I realized that, through everything that was experienced, that there was a whole new life that was waiting for me on the other end of this, moving through this heartbreak. So to me, that line just kept coming up for me, like, this is a new lifeline. This is a new lifeline. And for me, I experienced it through heartbreak. So,
yeah. So rather than, for a lot of people, what you describe as heartbreak, we feel that. Anyone who's had their heart broken or felt like they've gone through heartbreak, we get it. Like, it feels like you're crushed, life is over, everything sucks. But to look at it and reframe it as, okay, well, this is actually an opportunity to break through to a new lifeline is really fucking powerful. Now, of course, that sounds great when you're on the other side of it, right? And you becoming a heartbreak coach and really becoming an expert and thought leader in this specific niche, this was inspired by your own story.
Yes, it totally was. Like most people, we all go through heartbreak of some form at some point in our life, unless, when it comes to relationships, unless you've been with one partner, forever. A lot of us have experienced heartbreak. And in that moment, I don't think that there is anything that really cracks you open and makes you feel as raw and I don't know, like incapacitated like a heartbreak does. And I think a lot of times the reason for that being is that growing up, we were never really taught or shown what a healthy breakup looks like. And so we may have so many things in our lives that we've had great examples of, or we've learned how to do or navigate through. And so we may have things together in so many places, yet we go through a heartbreak and just our shit unravels and we just don't know what to do with it. So, back to like rediscovering who I was through this pain, I don't think I've ever been so cracked open. Through the past 10 years, going through relationships, I think I've just done what most people do and what Hollywood and society has always kind of painted as like what happens when you go through heartbreak, right? It's like you listen to the music and it's like, or like a Kelly Clarkson music video. It's the prime example when she goes and she like smashes her boyfriend's car, or that famous saying of like, in order to get over someone, you get under someone else. Like these are all the types of messages that we hear when we're going through a really shitty time. It's like revenge. And I think for so many years in my life, like I was in that mindset of shit hits the fan, you leave a relationship, you talk to your friends about it, and everybody just is like talking shit about the person that you just walked away from. Like they're a shitty person. How the fuck could they do that to you? Like all of these things without actually sitting back and being like, whoa, okay. Let's actually look at the facts. What happened? What did I do to participate? Why did I stay? Like all of these things that come into factor. And so when I had actually, in 2015, when I had gone through a really big breakup, it was almost like I was going through the breakup for all of the breakups I had experienced in the past. Like my first time that I was dealing with the ending of relationships that never worked out. And it was just done through this like one particular situation. So it felt like, I think the only way I could describe it in that moment was really fucking painful.
Yeah. And I feel like everyone listening can probably relate to this. Is like there's always this one breakup, there's always this one heartbreak that is heavier than the others, and that makes you realize a lot of things, because we find ourselves in this place quite often, or maybe we realize how many times we've kind of played out the same scenario. So for you, I mean, you found yourself at this place and now you're a heartbreak coach. What happened?
What happened? Okay, well, what happened was I stopped and I paused, and I was actually, I would say, forced to be in a place of being alone, like for the first time in my life. I was fired from my job. I was lost a lot of friendships. This relationship was over. So for the first time in my life, I actually had to just be with myself. And that was really fucking difficult, but it was actually really refreshing at the same time to do that. And I thought to myself, why haven't I done this before? Why is this new to me? But we can all, like a lot of us can relate that happens sometimes. And so what I had done was I had found something. I was looking for something that I could just connect to. And it was not anything that was superficial or any sort of like emotion that I could cling on to and work with. It was just a source. And so for me, it was connecting with nature. It was finding something that was bigger than myself and finding something that was bigger than any sort of advice that I could get. And when I had connected to that, I then realized that things were going to be okay, but I just needed to lean into whatever was coming my way. And I had this moment to myself. It was like in the middle of the night, and I woke up and I was like shaking, and I knew that it was like a feeling that was coming from the inside that was like just trying to be released.
Yeah.
And I went on to social media and I had come across some of your videos, right? And I was like, hold on a second, like, who is this girl? And she's talking about, like, you were talking about ending relationships, whether it be like personal, intimate relationships or friendships or whatever sort of relationship it is in your life, and feeling okay with walking away from being disrespected. And that was like my moment. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to beat myself up over feeling so shitty about this anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just, and that, like, just clinging on to like that nugget of information led me down this spiral of like really being curious. And so I think when you're going through that heartbreak, when you're going through that like vulnerable place of being cracked open, get curious. Get really curious about what is coming up in your body, in your mind, and like what your intuition, your gut is telling you to do, and recognize what feels good and what doesn't feel good.
That's really, really important. Thought leaders, like, pay attention to that. Get really curious. So when you're going through the heartbreak, get curious about everything that you're experiencing in it versus just letting it kind of take over you. You know, because it can be really easy when you feel sad or upset to just let that feeling overcome you versus like, oh, this is interesting. Let me figure out like why this is happening or dive into it a bit more. Yeah, that's really strong advice.
When you're so cracked open, be careful of like what you allow in, because when you're in that place of being so open, you're like a sponge, right? You'll soak in everything that's being given to you in that moment because you feel really, really raw on the inside, right? So paying attention to like, you know, who you lean into for support, because there'll be some people that will, you know, with the best intentions in mind, of course, but will tell you things that you just don't necessarily need to hear. For me, it was like, I didn't need to hear so much negative talk or throwing shade towards the partner, you know, because I had grown into this understanding that it actually never had anything to do with the partner.
Right. And here's the thing, right? Whenever we think people, quote unquote, do us wrong, it's really easy to throw our sense of ownership away and just point the finger. It's so much easier to do that. And that's what sometimes people around you want to do because they think that that's actually going to make you feel better. It's going to make them feel better. Let's just like talk shit about that person. But in actuality, that's not what makes us feel better. And that's not what helps us heal. And that's not what helps us move forward or evolve even, you know, like if we keep that mentality, then we're doomed to repeat it. And so for you, like this was really a moment for you to own, and you made a conscious decision to evolve from this heartbreak. And like you said, find that new lifeline.
Find that new lifeline and just really paying attention to what you're allowing into your life in that moment. And sometimes you don't know, but you do know, because you'll know what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And then actually just putting your boundaries up and saying like, you know what, I would prefer if we didn't sit today and talk about like all the ways we're going to get revenge on this motherfucker. Like, let's talk about how I can actually feel better, or how I can take a closer look at this pain that I'm feeling, because that's the thing that's getting me. That's the thing that's keeping me in bed. It's not the person. It's like this agony that I'm feeling of what is my life? What happened in these past like 3 or 4 years, or, you know, what's going to happen now? Those are the things that I want to talk about. And sometimes, you know, when we have this like desire to, you know, turn on like a really like romantic comedy and like see all these things that happen in a relationship from start to end. And honestly, like, I think that's what I had done too. We just go into this, you know, because we haven't learned anything else in terms of dealing with the heartbreak. We just go to what we've seen in all the movies and in all the songs. And that just never really helps you grow. So you have to be intentional, like what's going to happen next and what you want to happen next, because that's the thing that will transpire.
Yeah. So prioritizing your growth. Yeah. And your evolution beyond the heartbreak.
Yeah. And like seeing it as an opportunity that this is a chance where you get to come back home. This is where you get to now be on your own and recognize like what it is that's you, like what makes you you, and like what feels good, minus what is being what was happening in the relationship. Because a lot of times, like in a relationship, we feel so heartbroken when it's over because we have poured so much of ourselves into another person that when that relationship ends, we feel like a part of us is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we just feel like there's a part of us out there and we just need to figure out how to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of like, that's a lot of the missing piece that I had gone through. And it was realizing like I was always here, but I was putting on a facade for a long time.
Right.
So,
yeah. And so now with where you're at, where's that facade?
there is no fucking facade. It's like, it's interesting because I think, when we go through anything in our life that uproots everything that we've known, we start to rebuild things, but we are rebuilding from a place of like desire and a place of like intention, and going within ourselves and being quiet and like figuring out what feels right. So you get the chance to kind of like iron out the stuff that never really belonged there and bring in the stuff that you feel like this is what I want. This is the changes that I want to make. So this whole like thing of a facade that we all have worn a mask at some point of our lives, it doesn't just come off with a blink of a hat. It is something that we like consistently chip away at. And I think over the past little while, I've just gotten better and better and better at just being real.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, and this is like this is what I always say, and this is the most of the work that I do with my clients is unraveling from the various masks that we wear and really starting to get in touch with who we truly are, because we're born as babies as who we truly are, and then society, parenting, families, friends, teachers, loved ones, whatever it is, pop culture, we start to build up all these different facades trying to be what we think other people want us to be or what people expect us to be. And then we spend, our 20s and 30s unraveling from all of that shit. And some people, and some people all the way into their 40s, like we spend those years unraveling from all of that shit. So this isn't really it's people always say it's a journey of self-discovery, and I like to say it's a journey of rediscovery, because we're really just rediscovering who we are. So for you, the heartbreak, the lifeline, this was like a journey to rediscover who you were, but you said yes to that opportunity, which is super important. And now you are a certified life coach, which is incredible. And let's just be honest. And I want our audience
make sure that's in there.
Yeah, let's make sure that she's a certified life coach. But thought leaders, like one thing to keep in mind is when this was all happening and Harj first came to me, you had no idea that this is what you were going to end up doing. Years later.
I just wanted to learn how to get over this damn breakup. And I reached out to you and I was like, okay, Ruby, you're going to understand, because like there was a lot of things at play that I just felt like you could resonate with. And I was like, I'm going to work with Ruby because she's going to help me get over this damn breakup. And you started to talk to me about me. And I was like, hold on, this isn't about me. And you were like, no, like, let's talk about you and let's figure out what's going on for you and what's coming up. And through all of that work that we had done together, I started to really shift and realize, like, holy shit, none of this was actually anybody's fault. This was all things that I had attracted into my life. That was like one of the first things that I had to understand. So,
and that's a powerful that is a powerful thing to accept. When I say own your shit, like this is what I mean by owning your shit. Like you were able to say or come to a place where you said, this was no one's fault.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful, because it's so much easier to place blame. But in doing so, you also took ownership for the pieces that you have control over, which is you. And the reason why I even bring any of this up is because I want our listeners to understand, like, there is not one route to uncovering your purpose or just rediscovering what it is. There's not one route to doing this. But the thread that I find most common in everyone, or everyone that I've ever worked with, is that your purpose is definitely within your story. You know, your mess ends up being your message somehow. And for you, this is just such a beautiful full circle to come around to now this place of supporting people through heartbreak. And I mean, not just heartbreak, but heartbreak being your niche. What a powerful place to be. How does it feel to be at this point, like completely full circle?
It feels like it all made sense. Like it feels, oh man, that's a really good question. Because the way that it feels is it just feels like I've actually always been doing this.
Interesting.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it feels like this is like an ancient message that's always been there, but now I'm actually recognizing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I want to give you an opportunity to leave our listeners with some tips or some advice or something that they can really chew on. So what is it that you really want to share with them that they could like take in and then go integrate in their life?
For sure. I think the top thing being when you are going through your heartbreak, first and foremost, know that whatever is coming up for you and like the emotions that are coming up, no matter how ugly they are, you need to allow them to actually come up and like and show themselves to you, because if you do not actually deal with those things, it's going to continue to show up in other parts of your life. So do not be afraid of the pain that comes from heartbreak, and really utilizing like that pain as a way to get to know yourself. So figuring out what feels good to you. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's connecting to nature, maybe it's just spending more time on your own. Do it. If it feels right, do it. And something that I really, really want to also say is to recognize like who your support system is during a time like this. It may be your best friend, it may be your mom, but it may not be those people. You have to really be careful of like who it is, and conscious of who you're letting in at this time. And that is like the best thing that you could do for your healing. Something that I would love to say to your listeners and to everybody that's tuning in is that I know that it may feel this way right now, but I just want to remind you that this pain that you're going through, it's not the end of everything. It may feel that way, but just know that you'll be supported, and just be with yourself. Be gentle to yourself at this time.
That's really important, is the being gentle. I'm going to reiterate what I heard, you know, when people are going through heartbreak, like really allow emotions to come up, like just allow whatever's going to come up to come up. I fully support this. I think in so much of the work that I do with my clients, a lot of that is like, let's go back to the emotions that other people didn't let you feel. Like,
yeah, totally.
Anger is okay. Resentment's okay. Like being pissed off is okay. Just let it all fucking come to the surface. Otherwise it is going to poison you in the end.
Yes.
Number two was like utilizing your pain to get to know yourself. And I fucking love that you said that, because so often we almost feel like shame from our pain, or we feel guilty for feeling our pain, or we feel like we have to move past it really quickly. But what you're saying is like utilizing that as a tool to get to know ourselves, which again ties back into the get curious, right?
100%.
Three is recognize your support system, which I am always an avid fan of. It's so important to know who's actually really there to support you in all realms of life. And in some cases, let that be a coach. If you're going through heartbreak, Harj is here. And then number four, be gentle with yourself. So important. It's again, like it's so easy to beat ourselves up when we're going through heartbreak, or when we're going through difficult times, or when we're going through times that feel challenging. I think it's so much easier to beat ourselves up than it is to say, hey, I'm going to be gentle to myself. I mean, that's really hard.
Yeah, we don't ever give ourselves that option to be gentle. It's either like, let's be really pissed off and then just move on to the next relationship, or let's go like slash someone's tires. Like it's the in between. It's like, how about just focus on you?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So seriously, have you slashed someone's tires before?
No, it's interesting. I haven't, but I've had people around me be like, are you fucking crazy? Like, come on, like this person screwed you over. And it's like, no, like that's not gonna make me feel better. It might make you feel better, but it's not gonna make me feel better. But it's interesting because like we see that sort of image, right? We see that like message of like revenge, extreme revenge, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't. And what I think is really cool, and this is just coming to me right now, is how what we've been talking about and the process to really work through the heartbreak, it is so much like going through the heartbreak of anything. Like your first business doesn't work out, we experience heartbreak. Your first project doesn't work out, you experience heartbreak. Your product that you created doesn't sell, you experience heartbreak. You don't get the job, you experience heartbreak. I mean, heartbreak is so much more than just related to relationships. And the steps that you shared, like allowing the emotions to come up, utilizing your pain, being curious, like all of this is so useful in all of these different types of heartbreak.
Agreed. And I think heartbreak is actually, in my definition of what heartbreak really is, it's just extreme disappointment. And where does disappointment come from? Disappointment comes from us putting our hopes, our dreams, and tying our emotions to a person or a thing or an experience. And where does that come from? That comes from the heart.
Wow.
Right? And so when something doesn't work out that we had planned, our heart is disappointed. It's extremely disappointed. And that's where we put heartbreak into play.
Wow. That right there is fucking golden. Heartbreak is really just extreme disappointment. Thank you so much, Harj. We're getting close to the end of this episode. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners? Or a final thought?
Yeah. Any final thoughts? I just want people to know that, if you feel like during any sort of extreme disappointment, heartbreak, anything that's not working out for you, you are capable, even though if it doesn't feel that way, you are capable of recreating your life and rebuilding it. You are capable of getting through any sort of pain, and you have your own timeline for it. So don't rush it and don't minimize it. Just do what feels right for you. And there are communities of people that are ready to support you. So you've got this.
I am having a very proud coach moment right now, just so everyone knows, because this is like it. I think one thing that's super amazing to witness as a coach is when your clients evolve so far beyond their shit that they are now teachers of this shit.
And still learning.
Incredible. And still learning. Always learning. Always learning. Always evolving. Always. Well, Harj, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom. This is a very different episode for my podcast, but it's also one that I feel is relevant. I know that our listeners have experienced this or are experiencing this, and heartbreak happens in a lot of different ways. So why don't you tell our listeners how they can stalk you online? And I will also put this in the show notes, so don't worry about spelling it out.
Awesome.
Yeah,
no problem. So you can find me on Facebook. So my Facebook page is Harj the Heartbreak Coach. You can find me on Instagram as well, which is also Harj the Heartbreak Coach. So if you have any questions or even just like want to share your experiences, feel free to send me a message and we can just chat. Yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful for being on here and, continuing to look at you as like a mentor and just learning from you always. So it's been an honor.
Thank you. And to our listeners, I just want to say thanks for joining us on this special client feature on today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode in this special series where I'm featuring incredible clients who inspire me. If you want to hang out with me and Harj in person, you can do so in February in Los Angeles for Amplified Soul Live. This is my 3-day event and it is fucking awesome. The link for that is rubyfremon.com/ASL. Again, if you have any questions for either of us, reach out to us on social media. This episode was sponsored by the Mayfair Hotel and Eve American Bistro, home of Amplified Soul Live 2019. And I will see you all here tomorrow for another special edition of today's Thought Leader.